Mystic Sounds.
This is
So
Mystic Sounds 2.
Yeah, it got me to listen to the Oscar-winning original score for The Dances with Wolves. The reason I have that is because I'm a John Barry fan. But, if mysticism would include my religion of pantheism, sort of nature worship or worshiping all things,
I
including,
thought that was worship of underwear.
well, yes,
Pantheism?
it would include spandex and plastic. But anyway, my selections are earthbound or cosmic, and that's the cult-based worship. Oh,
I used to have that Robert Redford record, the language and music of the wolves or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, it was a bunch of recordings of like, wolves howling,
I wish I had.
interacting with each other. Anyway, it's pretty they make some kind of weird they have weird sort of conversational like modes of operation where they kind of sound like they're sort of crying and laughing.
As I was choosing records, I sort of got to thinking about I have so many records beloved of stoners. I have so many stoner records, and there's a lot of crossover between stoner records and sort of cosmic records, right? The sort of dichotomy between doesn't get high, likes lots of records that people listen to when they're high.
All right, I chose this, which you probably can't make out, but it's a gentleman sitting with a huge instrument of his own making. Okay, this is The Enlightening Beam of Axonda by Bobby Brown. Some records from 1972, I think. And yeah, Mr. Brown is really on a sort of cosmic trip to perform the great oneness of everything, both physical and spiritual. I think he was at some point involved in some kind of university study in physics. I don't know, but he's into particles and their entanglement. And this, he built this huge instrument out of about 50 other ones and from taken from the world over that would produce, all kinds of sounds from sort of articulate thumb piano, like percussive elements to like big drones. And he played it as a big one-man band contraption. And the results are really pretty remarkable. It's got little narrative segments introducing each little musical contribution, and it describes a spiritual journey of the spiritual journey of a protagonist, somewhat unimaginatively named Johnny. The vocal style is pretty distinctive too, although I think he was listening to a lot of Tim Buckley. On the back, he says, not quite, somewhat immodestly, the voice, 6 octaves, possibly the greatest range ever recorded. And he does do this fun stuff with different voices. He makes his voice into different voices, and occasionally sort of this kind of murmuring, sort of discontented goblin sound, and this little, higher pitched sort of airy fairies. We've got this person whose mind is being blown, and he's kind of spanning the seas to the skies with some sort of flash of Manson-like ecstasy. Immediately, a little blurb that immediately precedes the endorsement from Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys and Kenny Loggins,
Hmm.
who are two fans. All right, the story, an original contribution to the field of religion and science based on physics, to my knowledge, not yet discovered by other humanoids. More revolutionary than Einstein's revelations of Newtonian physics. The application of this physics will perhaps, in fact, lead to the most significant change in the history of humanity. Plus, total religious unity. So, anyway, total religious unity coming at you from a one-man band dude who's playing 50 instruments simultaneously. The enlightening beam of Exanda. Get turned on, man. Then the other one I've got is from Romania's Negura Bunget,
Hmm.
and I'm going to mispronounce everything here, but this is something like Varstella Pamantului, which is a record they made around 2010, I think. It's a very elemental record. I mean, here I think the cover art sort of captures this kind of organic forms evolving in some sort of void, and that's a lot. That's what it sounds like. I mean, this sounds like a this is a very trippy record that's like a journey through space that becomes a journey through time. Because as you move through sort of physical matter, you wind up in these different layers or strata of prehistory. It sounds very old, and these are, if I'm not mistaken, also some Romanian nationalists. And anyway, I don't know about their politics. Everything is in their native tongue, and it's probably good that I don't because, yeah, generally speaking, black metal and politics are a pretty fraught combination. But it's a very dynamic record that goes from soft to loud and from slow to spastic, for want of a better word. It just kind of things get really heated up and the atoms start colliding, and then something nuclear happens. They're making a point. They're trying to represent the sort of life of a land with the sort of blood in the soil, and or is it Jackson?
Yeah, that's a favorite of mine.
Oh, I've got that too.
The music of Norma Lyon, her and her twin sister. And Norma writes the songs, all original compositions from various windows on the along the Oregon coast. So it really is about the sea and it really captures that pantheistic aspect. Oh, her sister plays piano, she plays organ. I consider this outside classical, although it has touches of parlor music. It really represents the ebb and flow of naturalistic processes and movement. It's a firsthand interpretation of the roiling, lively, and dour and contemplative, arcane aspects of living on the coast by the sea. And the reason I revere this record is because with a little dedication, listening to it creates an equilibrium and suspends time for me. And if that isn't magic and mystic, I don't know what is. I keep this in my contemporary classical. And my second choice is this is a wild card, and it is Craig Smith's Apache grouped with Inca. So two solo records by, well, he renamed himself Maitreya Kali. So, and if you look at the cover, that's him, that's Craig, or right there with some drawings over his face. So I'm just going to talk about Apache. And if I look on this, I see, okay, oh, there's his name, right? And over here is a triangle, LSD. Oh my. So tantric yoga and some other indecipherable words, all set in old style English letters. Hitler, Zeus, Buddha, Maitreya, that's his name, Jesus, and he believed he was reincarnated from all these people. Rama, Krishna, Sun, Moon, Apache, dedicated to Jimi Hendrix. So this was actually inspired by his adventures in Yosemite Valley, but the Apache Indians had nothing to do with Yosemite Valley. So a lot of this stuff does not add up. So there's a little bit of backstory I think is slightly important to understanding this cult record. He was on TV. He was a songwriter. In fact, he lived off his royalties for many years. He had a pop band in LA called Penny Arcade. But at a certain point, he quit the band. He had money, so he could fully indulge the hippie lifestyle with LSD. He hit the hippie trail. And towards the end, he was in Kabul. He got beat up and possibly raped. and was never the same again after that. But he was unstable mentally anyway. So when he returned to LA, he believed he was reincarnated from Jesus, Buddha, and Hitler, and he wrote parts of these two self-released solo records. They seemed to have Buddhist lyrics that would tie him to the mystical. And he also attacked his parents and was jailed. And then he got a black widow spider tattooed right to his forehead, just like Manson's swastika. So, and then he became homeless. So, but none of that really matters because the music here is just beautiful. There's three aspects. Both records have three different kinds of songs. They have beautiful top shelf psych folk. It's undeniably dour, but beautiful. And then he's got the psych rock of some unreleased Penny Arcade songs. And then he's got these sound collage freakouts on some of the songs, which are somewhat unlistenable in the case where he's actually in the studio with Mike Love of the Beach Boys, listening to the playback of the song Salesman that the Monkees put on one of their records. But that's what it is. It's them listening to the playback, so it's really muffled. And then he and Mike Love are discussing, how they could put the background vocals on and stuff like that. Very hard listen on that song. So this is a great cult record, and I keep it in Outsider Folk. There's a bunch of pictures on the side, but basically the iconography does not add up to anything in particular. Chaos.
Okay, so my first one here is a meditation mass by Yatha Sidra. So these guys were a relatively short-lived, krautrock band, but it was basically like two brothers seemed to be the prime movers on this record, Ralph and Klaus Fickler. But this is, it's essentially one long hippie-ish song. A lot of moog, guy playing flute, one part that has some tasty, wah guitar. It's broken up into four parts, but it's essentially one long song that can be listened to that way. And it's very mellow and kind of hypnotic. A meditation mass is actually a pretty good title for it. You can see it's one of those die cut covers. This is a mandala, like a Tibetan style mandala inside. Yeah, in one way, this is like typical, 1973 or 74 hippie shit. But it's really, really good, typical 1973 hippie shit. And if you like, the more cosmic side of krautrock, you'll probably like this one. Number 2, from 2007. This is a Pilgrimage, the third record from Ohm. Ohm was originally the rhythm section of Sleep. So Al Cisneros on bass, a guy named Chris Hackius, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right or not, on drums. And this was their final record together. Ohm continued on, but they got a new drummer. But I think Ohm is probably, it's Al Cisneros, the bassist's band. I think he certainly writes the lyrics, and his bass is super prominent. And yeah, one of the main things to know about Ohm is that it is essentially bass and drums. This one has a really nice sense of dynamics, a build up of quiet to loud. Al's singing is not so much singing as it is a kind of, very rhythmic chanting, and the drumming is busy in the way that you want drumming to be busy on otherwise fairly sparse arrangements. So in other words, it's perfect, I think. But so yeah, some of these songs are a little bit, mellow. Some of them are, you would probably call them metal, but only because I'm not sure what else you would call them. Ohm are self-consciously spiritual. It's always hard to know exactly how seriously to take Al's lyrics, or any of it. I mean, you know, he uses a lot of Christian and Muslim iconography, make of them. But you know, just to read a few lines from a song called Unitive Knowledge of the Godhead. Summits ascendant traveler bows to celestial. Disembodied legions salute the pilgrim seeker. Reverentials to Lazarus echoes forth Osiric obelisk. To leave the reborn form, rise to freedom. And that's pretty typical, you know? So if you like droney kind of incredibly hypnotic, kind of groovy, sort of metal, sort of not metal, with, you know, dippy but perhaps earnest lyrics on spirituality, oh, might be your band. Also, they're incredibly loud live. So, one of my favorite bands, and this is one of my more favorite records. So, that's it.
Mystic sounds.
Two.
Demons in the belly of the earth.
Right Wing Rainbow.
I want to hug a wolf.
Romanians.
Fucking evil.
Storms of fury.
You look like a killer from like an Abel Ferrara movie or something.
Scary record.